Welcome to Haken, an Animal Crossing podcast, your podcast dedicated to all things Animal Crossing. This episode is brought to you by Nurnip, one of our newest Patreon patrons. Today, Sergio and I will be discussing our feelings about having one island per Switch and the possible reasons that Animal Crossing New Horizons was delayed. So to begin, hello Sergio, how you doing?
Hi Chewy, I'm doing all right. My voice is not is not all there today. I'm gonna blame our listener and friend Dragon. We were talking on Friday and he asked me, "Do you get sick often?" And I think he jinxed me. So
oh no,
thanks Dragon. But other than that, I'm doing great. What about yourself?
I'm doing well. I had a lot of fun playing Super Mario Maker 2 yesterday, though. I want to get more time with it because I was telling you a little bit before we started recording at least that I want to make Animal Crossing themed Mario levels, and I have ideas for them, but I just haven't gotten to sit down and make it happen. But
right.
Yeah, expect to see the newest level, Population Growing, soon. Actually, is there a character limit to the names?
There might be, but I've seen really long ones, so it should work.
Okay, good. Because I need more than 8 characters.
Right.
And come on, Animal Crossing. Okay, side note. Do you think this is going to be the first Animal Crossing that gives us more than 8 characters to work with?
Oh, I want to say yes, but it's very likely also that it won't. So I want to say 55% yes.
You know what? Okay. We got double amount of players for multiplayer. Oh. They need to double the character amount too. Double the characters and then double the characters. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, we got big news about things being doubled, but of course our first topic is that we're getting another part of the game that's being pretty diminished, I guess. And that is the fact that we can only have one island per Switch. And you know what? I'll say this with the caveat that I have seen things like these mistranslated in the past. So a little part of me still hopes that this was just a bad translation, that we can indeed have multiple islands per Switch. But as of right now, the information as it stands is that each profile on the Switch, which allows for 8 profiles essentially, will be logging in to the same island, which I don't like this, mostly because it just flips everything I expected on its head,
Yes.
Because every single other game on the Switch, each profile is its own separate save. And so I would have expected it to be okay, I'm going to play on Chewy's island because, that's me. So I'm playing on that island. And once I log into this island, then I can make 8 different characters,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Versus what we're going to get in this case, it's okay, we're all going to just log in as our account. So say Jackie logs in and then it's oh, this is Chewy's island.
Right.
But in this case it'll be our island because it'll be a shared thing,
yeah.
So yeah, that's what the information states right now. So Miranda Sanchez from IGN was actually the person who put this information out there. She did a lot of coverage on New Horizons and she asked a lot of really good things. I'm really glad. I know her because I listened to the Nintendo Voice Chat, which is IGN's Nintendo podcast, And so I've heard her before. Usually they pull her in for Pokemon stuff, but I also know she loves different life sim games and is a big Animal Crossing fan. So I was glad they had her because she really asked a lot of really good things that gave us some pretty awesome information. But unfortunately, some of that information isn't as awesome, at least to me, because I wanted 8 islands. I don't have a need for it at all, but I wanted it.
Right.
So I guess with that, how do you feel about the news that we only have one island per Switch?
Well, like you said, it is disappointing, but I kind of always thought it was gonna be the most likely outcome. And now that we see, how the game is going and that multiplayer is a big part of it, especially local multiplayer, I think that's really the reason why. I think Nintendo wants every person in the household that's gonna be part of the town, or I guess now we're gonna be calling them island. They want everyone to be familiar with the one island. They want everyone to share it, like you said. So I think that's why I think I mean, it would have been nice to have different islands for everyone, but if you look at the previous mainline games, it's one town per game, and sometimes you have multiple people. But on this one, I think it's just carrying the tradition. It's gonna be one island. At least it's not four people only. At least now it's eight.
You know, and I like what you mentioned with the older games, because it's pretty standard as far as Animal Crossing goes, where you get one game and that's it. Like, that's the one town that is on that cartridge, on that memory card, on. I guess that's all we've really had so far, you know?
Right.
So yeah, looking back, like population growing kind of had the most freedom with that, where
Yes.
you had, it was based on memory cards. Like you
Right.
could save a new town to a memory card, and I don't, I probably had like 3 memory cards on my GameCube,
Oh,
maybe even
nice.
4. Because they're cheap. Like it wasn't hard to get one. Even now, I got like a pretty basic memory card recently, and it was like $10. You know,
Nice.
so they're not expensive. And then gradually, it got more and more expensive. Where Wild World, you had to buy a cartridge, and then now that I'm thinking about this, I don't remember how the saves worked in City Folk.
Hmm.
Because there wasn't really an equivalent to profiles on the Wii, were there? Was there, outside of like, I guess the Mii's, you know?
No, yeah, I don't remember if save files were on the system itself or if it was on the like the SD card that you could use.
I think the thing with that was, could you, I guess I never really, maybe I need to experiment with this a little bit, because I do have some SD cards lying around, because I've upgraded my Switch SD card once, actually just once, because I got my Switch in March, and then I got an SD card for the first time Black Friday when the 200 gigabyte was like on sale, you know?
Yes.
And then the next year I upgraded to the 400, and it was already like the same price I got my 200
Yeah.
gigabyte for. So now I'm just hoping the same thing happens with the terabyte. So, because eventually I will have a 2 terabyte card in my
Right.
Switch, that is an insane amount of save files I should be able to have. Nintendo, come on.
Yeah, for sure. You know,
But yeah, what were you
just
gonna say?
a quick note going back to population growing. If you remember, the save file on that game was pretty much the size of the very first memory card, like the initial batch. I guess they were pretty small. I wonder if Nintendo made that on purpose, just so that you couldn't really have a lot of towns. You had to get different memory cards instead of having multiple towns in one. I wonder if, the save file size is sort of inflated on purpose.
I guess I don't know. Because I feel like I had one that was like a pretty huge memory card, like 1,000 blocks or so,
Right.
which I guess I don't know what that translates in actual.
Right.
It's probably tiny compared to what we're dealing with
Yeah.
now. I have a micro SD card. There's one out there with a terabyte.
That's crazy.
Like, it can hold that much in a thing that you can like accidentally swallow.
Yeah.
Somebody can sneak it in your sandwich, and then you have to wait to get that thing back, you know? Regardless, so I don't know how it works. I imagine it's like any other game where it has, the different save files are different villagers, different characters that you can play as. Kind of like, if you started like a Mario Sunshine, it would give you three saves or whatever. I'm just putting an example. I don't
Right.
remember how
Right.
many it had. But, but you couldn't really make any save files beyond that on that memory card.
Yes. Hmm.
So I imagine it's locked in that way. But still, like, getting a second memory card is a lot cheaper.
Yes, right.
It was so far the cheapest option. So I'll look into how it worked in City Folk because now I'm interested.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to see how these save files work and if you were able to transfer them onto an SD card. But I don't know. I guess I feel like it might have just been you get one town per Wii. So,
Hmm.
and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that was never really a problem for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know, because I know you could also plug in GameCube memory cards on the Wii.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
I don't know. That's going to take some experimentation. But beyond that, New Leaf was the same scenario as Wild World, where it
Yes.
saved to the cartridge. So all of your town and stuff was all on that game that you owned.
Yes. Hmm.
And so what we know going into the Switch is that the Switch, all the save files are saved to the console itself. And yeah, it's not saving to the game cartridge. It's not saving to an SD card. You literally just have the one place where the save files live. And now they've updated the Switch so you can transfer which Switch is associated with your save files. So there's that,
Yes. Hmm.
But outside of that, I don't think there's just no other option.
Right, right. And it would have been nice to have at least two. You have your island from the physical game, and you can have another one if you buy the game digitally. That would have been perfect. I think most people that want more than one island, they would want two.
Hmm.
The number of people that would want more than two, it's a lot less. So having two and just separating them physical digital, that would have been very easy. I want to say.
Yeah, well, thinking about that, I know Newt, who is on our Discord and friend of our show, she's got like 17 copies of the game
Oh
of
my
New Leaf or
goodness.
something. It's insane. I feel like I saw a photo of all of her copies, and she had a
Oh wow.
ton. Um, but you did mention something interesting because I do have that set up on my New Leafs. Like I have two cartridges and one downloaded.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
so like the one downloaded and all the cartridge ones, like those are all completely different towns. They're not. There's no overlap. They're just different.
Yes. Hmm.
So that would be one solution. But now the thing we're running into is the fact of the matter is there is a large group of people who who just play multiple towns, especially like later in the game, because I don't have the heart to delete my first town.
No, no.
Like my New Leaf, that is the first town that I ever made. Well, technically not, because I had restarted a lot to get this town, but it is the first town that I stuck to from the day the game came out. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So at that point, when you have 6 years of this town existing, no, I'm not going to delete that. I'm going to get another game so I can start over on that one and never get rid of this.
Right, right.
So now the option is if this whole thing is true, you have to buy another Switch to play this game a second time,
Right.
essentially. Because I don't foresee myself ever deleting whatever town I make on this Switch.
Oh no.
So if I ever want to play the game again, like from brand new, from the very beginning,
Yeah.
I just have to get another Switch. So I'm bummed. I'm just bummed that it's not following the formula that all other Switch games follow.
Right. Hmm.
And I just want I get like I said, I feel like most of this is not a problem at the beginning because I'm gonna be very focused on my one town. Like a new Animal Crossing game is a busy time in our lives. There's not really room for a second town, but later on when you want to like just mess around with things and try see all the different map layouts that are possible, like it's fun to have just a second cartridge, a second game essentially to mess with all of that and see all the different things you could do.
Yes.
And even like have a town where you just play differently. Because like for example, like I want to have my own town, but I also want to have like a shared town with Jackie. And now it looks like my option. I mean, I say this like I'm not going to buy an Animal Crossing themed Switch, but in the case that doesn't happen, I'm just going to go with the shared town, you know? I'm just going to
Yes.
play together.
Right.
But there are people out there who I'm sure want to differentiate their own space from one that they share.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's expensive to do that. $300 versus the $20 that it costs for a new copy of New Leaf today.
Yeah, right. And I guess I wonder if Nintendo took that into account. Well, if for the people that may want another island, well, let's just sell them another Switch.
Yeah, well, Nintendo, they know Animal Crossing's a system seller, but not only that, like they know a lot of people probably bought the game twice, and they're like, all right, let's just sell more systems.
Right.
So they're going to make money.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, as much as a company will say like their main goal is to make people smile, make people happy, and that sort of thing, they can't do any of that without the money being there.
Right.
So they're also trying to make money. That part of the formula is never going to be gone, like ever. I don't see it being gone.
Yeah, right.
All right, so I have another question for you, Sergio. What would your reasons be for having a second island?
Yeah, there's a lot of good reasons. So for example, when I first got my second town in New Leaf, some of the things that I did there, easier bells. You can just decide, oh, I just want to plant a lot of perfect fruit trees on this secondary town, if you will. And then you just wait for a time when retail pays you extra for those and you make big bucks. Not to mention the ability to have another turnip pricing, for buying or selling. You have that option there. You can always check every Sunday, oh, well, how are the turnips here and also here on this other town. There's also more daily things to do. You can go to the shops on the other town and get more items. You can basically think of it as more storage too. I know I just dropped items in front of the train station just for easy access there because, it wasn't a town that was really played. It was just for making use of the town and of the space. So I just threw items right in front of the train station. And actually, the first reason for me to get a second town was because of, remember in New Leaf when some of your villagers would ask you for signatures for a petition. I remember one time Alfonso wanted something, and I said, "Well, it's Alfonso. I gotta make this happen." And I asked a couple of friends that had the game if they could open up so I could visit them, and they were mostly busy. It was Sunday afternoon, I remember. So I said, well, you know what? I couldn't find anyone. I'm just gonna go to Target and buy another copy of the game, and I did. So there are a lot of reasons. Another one which is really cool actually. Remember there were times when you would get items like the items that you had to give to Franklin, or when you got Santa's sack for the toys, and basically you had to play the event and then eventually you will return the item. But if you didn't want to in your second town, you could just keep the item like as a, I guess, like a memento type of thing. And I have a lot of rare items that I got through my second town that way. And honestly, this reason alone is making me reconsider if I want a second island.
I really love that all of yours are focused on just like playing two towns simultaneously and just getting like extra stuff on top of like like doing the events,
right?
Where you said you get a second sack for the Santa thing,
yes,
and then you could just carry that around now.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I really like that. I really like all of those reasons because I don't know, some people just don't have other people to play with, like. And I mean, in that case, like, it doesn't matter that you only get one town per save,
right?
But like you're bringing up a lot of good reasons for but even in that case, like they'd still need a second Switch to make that happen. So you would have needed a second 3DS. Did you have two 3DSs at that point?
Yeah, at that point I did.
Well, Yeah. I love that your dedication to Alfonso also just sent you to Target to get another copy of the game and be
Yeah.
like, here you go, man. He spent real money on him. That's like,
Yeah.
that's the biggest microtransaction. um, but yeah, I guess in my realm, I was just thinking of like different ways to play the game where,
Mm.
you I know I'm a bit of a control freak and I want to do things my way sometimes, and I feel like Animal Crossing is the ultimate game that lets me do that.
Yes.
And so I love having just my own island. And which is funny because at first, like, that's not how Animal Crossing started for me at all. I like Animal Crossing on the GameCube started out as a cooperative game for me. Like, I played it with my brother and with my friend. Like, we all shared a place. And so that was my introduction to the game. And now thinking about it, I'm like, well, maybe that's not so bad. Maybe it's not so bad to share an island. And so right today, I'll say I'm leaning more toward being okay with there being one island per Switch and doing more of the shared island thing with Jackie.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know. I also worry about later when I'm just like, oh, well, I want to do all of the things in this town. I want this to be all mine.
Yes. Hmm.
So I wonder if I'll hit that point at all. But yeah, I, I guess the most important thing I wanted to do was just experiment because this is like we're breaking ground here with a new game, a new HD game, and I'm already just dreaming about all of the different types of layouts that we'll get in our town.
Mm.
I know I've seen like videos of people worrying about there being only one layout available, but no, come on. We have never once gotten a one layout deal with Animal Crossing. Like the half the fun is going to this place and being like, "Oh, look at how my place is laid out," you
Yes.
know?
Yeah. Hmm.
So, I don't think they're going to get away from that. I feel like that's one of the staples to the game. So, I want to see all the different things cuz in the other games like you get some interesting things going on like different cliffs, different slopes that take you up and down the cliffs, different rivers, different just all these different things that could happen, like the ponds and everything. These natural features that exist in the Animal Crossing world. That would be one of my main reasons for wanting a second Switch, just to see all the different possibilities while playing through a main town that I have forever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with you. I feel. I don't know. I wonder why they picked that layout to showcase at E3, particularly during the treehouse, especially because it's so symmetrical. It's kind of, I don't want to say boring, but it's very simple, very, I guess, generic maybe. I
Hmm.
think it would have been better if they picked something with a little more dynamics in the layout.
Yeah. And while you bring up the treehouse, I want to talk about something very specific that has been confusing me. And it is when they played co op on this, like we got a good look at the map in
Hmm.
the game. At no point on this map could we see that second player's home. Like we saw two other tents that we all assume belonged to the two villagers that moved into the island with you, you know?
Right.
But there is not a fourth tent. Like there should be
Yeah.
four with all those things considered. So I'm really wondering how this local multiplayer works because clearly this character like had items and it all could have just been for the demo. It could have been like a profile that was set up just to show this off. So it's
Hmm.
not like the reality of how this works, but I guess it just made me think like are are they connected? Like, are these two characters actually living on the same island? Because I don't see this second character on the island.
Right. Right.
So that's just a suspicion I have, and it's something that I don't think it's going to get answered until the next time we see this game, if it's even answered then, like it may not even be answered
Yeah.
until it comes out.
Yeah, they
You
might
know?
they might leave it to us to figure it out. That's a good point. It may be up to the second player. Do you really want to play this game enough that you want a tent or a house in this village, or do you kind of want to just help me out when we play local multiplayer? You can have your character, you can keep whatever items you can store in your person, but if you don't want a tent and you would feel bad just taking up space that you're not gonna use, maybe that's the case. I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know, because somebody on our Discord, I don't know, I don't remember if you, I don't know if you remember, but somebody had posted like a picture of the map and had taken the other villager tents and just kind of put them around the town just to see how it looked.
Mhm.
And I think they used like the main character's tent, and it fills up once you have 8 characters or 10 villagers in the game.
Right.
So I don't know. I just feel like that's a lot of characters to have in a single place, and the space is going to start to run out at some point.
Oh, I just thought of something else. So if you don't have 8 players, 8 human players, maybe you can decide to have more villagers. Maybe there's like a trade-off there.
That would be awesome. I mean, I'm still really hoping that one of the big features of this game is expanding the island.
Yes.
Because and I've kind of like talked to Drama about this a bit, and she doesn't seem to think that we're going to be able to expand the island. And she also kind of doesn't want to be able to because she likes like the smaller, cozier feel of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, yeah, but in my scenario, like you don't have to expand the island. Like you can keep it
True.
small, but
Yeah.
like if you want to, it's an option. And then maybe more villagers can move in once you have expanded your island. And I'm really interested in that. Like I still want that to be the case in the game, you know?
Yeah, for sure. We know it's a little bit bigger than New Leaf, at least from what we can tell, from scaling different maps. But it's still, I do agree. I want to see some expansions. I would like to see like the mountains on the back to really get expanded upon, and maybe like the city part of everything is back there. Or they could add like piers, and there could be either player houses or villager houses all around the 3 edges of the beach. That would be a very nice way to expand and to actually use the water around the island.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Like having a little beach home on a pier.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. All right, so I've got one last question for you on this topic. Would you buy a second Switch just to start a second island?
Oh man, this question I went back and forth so many times, and I've decided on no, and I think I'm gonna stick with no, even after thinking about those special items that you can only get maybe like once a year. I think I would rather still keep just one island. But if there is an Animal Crossing themed Switch, like a limited edition type of thing, I do have to get it. I would just transfer my current Switch files to the new one, and I would probably keep the old one just to have the option of having a second island. But I don't think I would use it right now. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't have a second island.
All right. My answer is, well, I don't know. If there's an Animal Crossing themed Switch, yeah, me too. Just send it my way, Nintendo. It's fine. Take my money.
Yep.
But I think I'm leaning toward no as well on starting a
Oh.
second island. I think I'm gonna go with my original playthrough where I shared the experience with somebody else, you know?
Yes.
So that's where I'm leaning today. I think I'm gonna skip it, and if there is an Animal Crossing Switch, I guess I'll have 2 islands. I guess that's just what I'll
Yeah.
have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice little perk to buying a system that we already have. And for those events or items that you can only get once a year, it just adds value to it. We the first year we do it, we do it right. We do the events the way we're supposed to, and then the other years we can keep a thing or two from Franklin and just add it to our collection.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we're going to be playing this for a long time. We probably won't have to do the same event and get the same items
Right.
year 3 or 4, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So we can just hold on to those really cool cooking things that we get, like
Yeah.
the little bottle of oil and stuff. Those are cute. I
Yeah.
want more of those. All right, so let's move on to the next topic, and that is why possible reasons why New Horizons was delayed. So, officially, what we've heard from Nintendo is that they want to keep their employees happy. They don't want to abuse them, of course. They want to minimize the crunch time. That is very, very common in the video games industry, which just means they're trying to meet a deadline, so people are working obscene hours to do so, you know?
Yes.
And then they also added on top of that that they don't want to do a disservice to the fans and put out a game that they don't feel is ready, which I believe that too. So far I believe both of these reasons, just because I get the feeling that Nintendo has huge development teams, so there are a lot of people working on a game at once, so that alone minimizes the need for crunch because teamwork makes the dream work.
Right.
And then on top of that, like, we know that Nintendo cares about the product that they put out for fans. They want it to be polished. And for the most part, we get that, like, it's very rare that we have like a serious bug in a Nintendo game that just like breaks it.
Yes.
Has that happened? I don't know.
I think there were a couple in Zelda games actually, for sure Twilight Princess, but it was very, very rare, and Nintendo still offered a way to sort of fix it.
Yeah, and now that I think about it, I do remember, I think it was Pokemon X and Y. And
That too, yes.
yeah, when you would get to essentially like the Paris segment of that
Yes.
game, and if you saved like in that city, except for like a Pokemon Center, there was a chance that your game would get deleted.
Yes.
Like completely corrupted. So it happens, but it's so rare for Nintendo to really put out a game that has that kind of break.
Right.
And I got lucky because I always, in Pokemon games, save inside of a Pokemon Center.
Oh, nice.
Like, that's my place to save. Like, I don't usually... I feel like that's a checkpoint to me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So those are the reasons right now that they've put out there, but I kind of came up with another list of reasons. Some of them go along with, the obvious things that you can say about the game, like the game is just not ready yet.
Yeah.
It needs more time to get done. The other ones I came up with were things like the winter release schedule was already full.
Oh, yeah.
Because going into this E3, it was hard to ignore the fact that there were 4 major games listed for the end of the year, or at least what we assumed would be the end of the year, where we have Pokemon Sword and Shield, which just the week before E3 got a November release date, so that was one accounted for.
Yes.
And then we got a date for Zelda, Link's Awakening. That's September 20th, so that's 2 accounted for. And then they showed us a Luigi's Mansion trailer during E3, and it still only said 2019.
Right.
Which is weird considering like there are only 2 months left that Nintendo does not have like a Nintendo published game coming out. And by that I mean like, Nintendo is publishing Astral Chain, for example. Like,
Yes.
It's not made by Nintendo, but they're the publisher on this. And we've had other games like that before. Regardless, so the only months that are left are October and December.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not a lot. I really don't understand how we couldn't get a date for Luigi's Mansion, considering the last game in that list was, of course, Animal Crossing New Horizons, which got a date for March 20th, 2020, the 320s.
Yes.
It's no longer E3 anymore, it's 320s. But regardless, like, it's so weird that we didn't get a date for that. So clearly, I don't know, to me, I feel like they were picking between one of them to delay and one of them to still put out. And they're like, well, like Animal Crossing, we could always put more work into that. Because there is just a lot to localize that game on top of like finishing whatever they're finishing.
True.
And so they probably figured Luigi's Mansion, they could do a little bit more work. And then, but it's still weird to me that there's no release date The other thing I listed here was that there may have been no releases planned for spring 2020 yet. Based on their workload, like if they're already pushing a game back to avoid crunch time, maybe that's having a bit of a domino effect and pushing other games back.
Yes.
But I don't know, because I know I just mentioned like Nintendo has huge development teams, and I think they have about like 5 different teams that work on a bunch of different things. So I guess I don't know. I just feel like for some reason they don't have anything for spring, and they're like, yeah, let's put Animal Crossing there because that's a big game, and we already have plenty of big games for fall/winter.
Yes, and I'm trying to think if they announced anything else for 2020. I don't think they did, right?
Not Nintendo made, I don't think.
Right.
Well, they did mention one game that's beyond 2019, and that's clearly the Zelda Breath of the Wild 2.
Oh, yes.
So we don't know. It's probably not 2020.
Right.
It's probably 2021.
Yes.
Just if I had to guess on that game, and we saw a little bit of something, but I don't know. I feel like that's a huge game. It's probably going to be huge and going to take a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Especially with like, I already know, I think Breath of the Wild originally was slated for 2015. It came out 2017.
Yes.
2 years later. Later than they anticipated. So
yeah.
I expect this 2021 or later.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, another reason I came up with was maybe they want to have like a full Nintendo Switch Online app for it. And maybe they're still working on like how they're doing the semi connection to Pocket Camp where they're like sharing event items, you know? So I think they're just stuff that they're working out. And the last one I almost forgot was they could want this release to coincide with a new Switch model.
Ah, yes.
So those are the ones I guess I came up with. How are you feeling about this delay? Like, what do you think about it?
Well, what I do think is that, for the most part, I think the biggest reason, it's very possible that it's a combination of all of these, but I think the biggest one is that 2019 was already very well filled up, and I mean really well. There's so many games already. Like you could even say that it started last week with the release of Super Mario Maker 2. It's gonna be a really good Nintendo game or Nintendo published game every month. September has at least 2 actually, and then we're still waiting, like I said, on Luigi's Mansion 3. But oh man, this year, this fall and winter is gonna be packed with really good games. So I think I'm sure it was a difficult decision, but I think Nintendo had to say, well, one of these games just has to get pushed to 2020, and Nintendo is not very known for releasing a big title in January or February. So March made more sense. Usually, if they do a January game, it's almost always a port or like a download game or like a minor game, if you will. So that's why I think it's March instead of earlier. And I think that's the biggest reason why. I think, for example, this a potential new Switch or the Switch Mini that it's always rumored. I think that's very possible. It would be, if it comes out in March also, it would be 3 years after the original Switch came out. I don't know if that's a reason. I mean, it could be. I think it's 50-50. It could go either way if it's just a coincidence or if Nintendo actually wants to hold Animal Crossing back just to tie it with a new model. So there's a lot of options. I really liked the one you mentioned about the Nintendo Online app because Mario Maker 2 just came out and I don't believe it even uses the app yet. So it's very possible that Nintendo wanted to say, well, we want this application to be up and ready when the game is out, so maybe we could use a couple of extra months.
Yeah, and it seems weird to me that like we have a stage builder in Smash, and then when that got introduced, the app got updated with the Smash app, you know?
Yes.
And then from there we kind of had an easier way to look at, I guess, player made levels and download those straight from our thing. Like, I would not mind having that type of app for Mario Maker.
Yeah.
Especially if, like, Because I remember Mario Maker 1 on the Wii U, like Nintendo had a whole site dedicated to like curating levels.
Oh,
Like they went through and played a bunch and like recommended them on a site. So I think it would be really cool to see an app for that where they do the same thing, where they play through levels and recommend some to everybody just based on like what they've seen.
yeah.
Um, and just make it easy for us to like download those levels while we're on the go and then come back and be like, oh, this is so fun.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to point out, as far as when the decision was made to delay the game, I'm gonna guess that it was actually done a while ago. I even want to say as far back as the February direct when we first saw Luigi's Mansion 3. I think Nintendo back then already decided that it was gonna be Animal Crossing that was gonna get delayed, and that's why they showed us Luigi's Mansion because it would be this year. I know it was a difficult decision, but I don't think it was made recently. And for some reason, I'm guessing it was made back then.
That's probably a good guess. I think I can agree with that. So yeah, I think they're just like a mix of things happening. Like we talked about, like looking at the lineup before E3, it was packed. It was just there's too many huge games slated for the end of the year.
Hmm.
And if I remember correctly, the investors meeting, somebody asked them, and they were just like worried about how the release schedule was going to go this year because last year, 2018, it was like a lot of nothing. And then all of a sudden, November rolls around, Pokemon, December hits 3 weeks later, and you get Smash. So the biggest games for Nintendo were released 3 weeks away from each other,
Yeah.
and they were both at the tail end of the year. And so investors were like, so is this going to be the same thing where people just have to wait till the end of the year to get a good game? And unfortunately, I mean, not to say that the other games that came out weren't good, but unfortunately, like, there weren't really huge heavy hitters in the first half of 2018. Same goes for 2019, where,
Yes.
there was Kirby and Yoshi taking those spring slots,
Yes.
essentially. There was Labo, which, a lot of people feel maybe that's not as impressive in the sales as Nintendo wants it to be.
Right.
So, like, Spring looked identical. And then there were two ports of Wii U games. 2018 had Bayonetta 1 and 2, and then 2019 had the new Super Mario Bros., which,
Yes.
come on, dude. Like, we're going into a new Super Mario Maker game. Like, that game is not going to be relevant. And they were pushing it hard on
Yes.
social media. Like, daily there was something about new Super Mario Brothers, Wii U Deluxe Forever Infinity. The name keeps going. But yeah, like they had 2 years of like boring first halves before anything hit. Like
Yeah.
2018 and 19 look identical to me, where I waited till just after E3 2018 to get my first Nintendo game, which was Mario Tennis Aces. And then this year, I got my first Nintendo game, which is Super Mario Maker 2.
Right, right.
And those both happened in June. And it wasn't till June where I bought a game. This year is a little bit different, though, where next month I'm going to be picking up Fire Emblem. So there's
Nice.
like one little extra thing. But 2018, after I picked up Mario Tennis Aces, I essentially just waited till October when I could get Super Mario Party.
Oh.
Like October, November, December, those were the games
Yes.
that's when I bought games from Nintendo.
Right, right.
And this year, I guess it's kind of looking the same still. Outside of like there's Fire Emblem added on that, but I do want to get Luigi's Mansion and Pokemon at the end of the year.
Yes. Nice.
But now I skipped the spring games in both those years. I didn't get Kirby,
Oh,
I didn't
yes.
get Yoshi, but now next year
Oh.
I'm getting Animal Crossing. Like that's a huge game to put out at a time where it's been relatively slower for Nintendo, so I think that might have been their response. And it's just before their fiscal meeting, like their yearly one, their big
Yes.
one in April. So I think they're trying to amend things in that way because they had a plan for a spring release, which was Fire Emblem, but that got pushed back. And now Animal Crossing was going to be a big 2019 release, but that got pushed back. And now Luigi's Mansion is somewhere without a date. So, I don't know. That's my big rant on how Nintendo's investors are not satisfied with their release schedule, but Nintendo seems to be running into these situations where they're pushing games back. And they're trying to spread it out so there's a little bit of a better layout for their release schedule, because we already know Yoshi was done way before it came out, but they just held on to it until, what was it, March? The end of March or April? Something like that. And so they're trying to put games at all points of the year, and I think Animal Crossing got hit with that, you know?
Yeah.
And
I think it's ideal to have one Nintendo published game a month. I mean, if we really think back to way back when it was the, let's see, I guess the GameCube and the DS, and then the Wii and the DS, there was a Nintendo published game on each system every month. So that was a lot of good gaming. But nowadays with the Switch, one game a month, it's good enough. And like you said, 2020 is gonna be very different. We're gonna get the spring game, and that's all we're going to need for the year. So that's going to be very different.
Yeah, and, I say this all as if, like, the 3DS isn't dead now. But judging by Nintendo saying 0 things about the 3DS right now, I have a good feeling that it's over. Like,
yeah,
we may get... I don't know. We probably won't even get another game on it from Nintendo. I think they're just ready. They've probably run into these development issues by, I guess, just pushing their handheld developers into the Switch. So
yes.
That could be a big internal thing going on right now. Like, they're just like, okay, we're dedicating all of our resources to one console now, and everybody needs to be up to speed. So I think they're finding homes for everybody. I don't think Nintendo's not the type of company to just like lay off massive amounts of people out of nowhere. We've seen that with the Wii U era, where Iwata took a huge pay cut just to keep the company going.
Yes.
Essentially keeping all the people there who are there. So I think it's a company that at least cares about their developers. They care about the people who work there. And so I see them having more of a struggle with just like figuring it all out right now. How everybody's going to fit into the new era of Nintendo, which I hope we never leave, because a hybrid console, it's brilliant. It's all I ever needed in my life as far as gaming goes, because I don't have to buy 2 Nintendo consoles anymore. I mean, I do, because, we just talked about it for now. But regardless, it's a huge step for Nintendo, and I think it's going to be good overall. I think this whole schedule thing is going to get better, and we'll see some casualties on the way. We'll see delays like Animal Crossing, which, I placed this game at December for a long time. November, to be fair, but then after that, December.
Yes.
And so for me, March is a 3-month delay. It's chump change compared to what we've been waiting for so far.
Yes.
Yeah, so because we went from never seeing this game to knowing the exact day that we'll have it in our hands. That's a huge step. I always want to take the time to just appreciate that,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's my monologue for this time. Do you have anything else to say about this topic?
No, I think we're good. And, there's so many different reasons. But this is going to be one of those things that we might find out more details many years later, but we might not even find anything out. But we have a date, like you said, and even though it's really far from now, but at least we have it and we can plan for it.
Yeah. And I always talk about this, but one of my dreams, Sergio, is that we one day have somebody from Nintendo who worked on Animal Crossing to be on this show.
Yeah.
It's just my and I don't know if it'll come true. I hope so. Like, I really do
Yeah.
hope so because, we've been doing this for a while and I plan to keep doing it for a very long
Oh
time.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, you do too. So, but I'm really excited for whenever, because I keep track of the Nintendo, like, official podcast. I think it's the Nintendo Power Podcast. And one day, Animal Crossing is going to come out and we're going to be able to hear from people there on whatever their story, whatever they decide to focus on in
Yeah.
this game.
Yeah.
But I feel like they always do. They did like a big developer chat with the Zelda team, for example. And so that's huge. I would love to hear about the development process for this game. So that's why that's a dream.
Yeah, and since it's gonna be at least as far as we know, it's gonna be probably the only spring game. Like, if the pattern repeats, it's gonna have a lot of media attention.
Yeah, that's true. It's gonna be at a point where there's not a lot going on.
Yeah, yeah,
in the gaming sphere. So, and by then, 3 months to beat a Pokemon game, you don't need that
yeah,
long.
yeah,
It's doable. It's plenty of time. So that'll be done.
yeah.
Technically 4 months, I guess, because you got December, February, March, or January. I
January
skipped.
too.
Yeah, that's the one I skipped. So that's plenty of time. And then we already have like half a year to play Fire Emblem and Super Mario Maker 2
Yes.
while we're waiting for those Pokemon games and everything. So by that time, I think a lot of people are going to be interested in this game.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not just us. Like, it's going to go beyond the fandom at that point, which is always fun. I'm always excited for new players to come to this game.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. All right, so let's not go too much further. We're going to go into Haken's Villager Corner. For those of you who don't know or are new, and for those who do know, we ask our patrons a question every week. This week I accidentally asked two, so I already have the one for next week ready. But this week's question was, does the March 20th, 2020 release date diminish your hype for the game? So, Sergio, are you less hyped knowing that you have to wait longer?
No, I want to say I'm equally hyped. I'm just glad in a way. Like you said, we're gonna be able to beat some other games that we were hoping to play before Animal Crossing. So even though that wasn't the ideal solution, that happened, and it's like looking at the positive of the delay. But no, I'm equally hyped, especially after seeing the game and knowing that they also have more time to refine it even further. Oh no, I'm just as hyped as ever.
Yeah, and I feel like we also fall into that category where we do this show every single week. So there's always, it's just always going to come up. It's always going to be on our minds. And so I feel like I can't escape the hype. I feel like I'm just excited for this game, and I don't see myself not being excited for it. And like you said too, like, I have time now to play it's going to be 4 next month, 4 JRPGs that are going to take a lot of my life to beat. So I think it's good, but also I wouldn't complain if it were coming out tomorrow.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah. All right, so let's go ahead and go through our answers. I guess I'll start this time. I feel like I usually have you start, but the first answer is from Dragonflame323, and they said, well, first I want to say, Dragon, you cursed Sergio. Got him sick. No, I'm just kidding. You're fine. But he said, I'm a patient guy, and delays don't tend to bother me. Yoshi got delayed a whole year, and that was worth it. I think this game will be totally worth having a larger hype cycle for. To put it in a more positive light, I'm just happy to know it's coming. And that's true. Like, I am glad, like I said a bit earlier, we have a release date. There's an end to this wait.
Yeah, and I agree with, Yoshi was always the example. Nintendo does delay games, and Yoshi got pretty big delay, over a year. So Animal Crossing, at least it wasn't that bad. But I think, in the end, it's most likely the same reason. They just wanted a game for next year. But yeah, I agree with Dragon. It's a positive thing in a way. It just helps us prepare, and it helps more people to be aware of, it's gonna be next March.
Yeah, and we knew it was too good to be true. Like Nintendo did a crazy job of getting all of these games out on time in 2017.
Yeah.
Nobody expected Xenoblade Chronicles 2 to make it, so it was a matter of time where they slipped up and didn't put out a game on time.
Yeah, for sure. So Cathario says, the delay has not diminished my hype at all. I'm still looking forward to March 2020, but I have calmed down a lot since E3 now that we have some real confirmation and information on Animal Crossing New Horizons. The last month before E3 about killed me with anticipation. I do have plenty of games to get through and events between now and then, so I think I will keep plenty busy and time will just fly by. Yes, that's very true. We have games, we have other projects working on, and just having a date, it just lets us plan things out. Okay, we have basically like 7 months or 9 months, and hopefully, I wish it was seven.
I know.
But, we can plan things out and really space ourselves, and just, it's going to be a huge game. So having plenty of time to plan things out, it can be a good thing.
Yeah, and I'm finding so many ways to keep myself busy, distracted. Like I was saying at the beginning, I want to make Animal Crossing themed Super Mario Maker 2 levels. So that's a big thing I want to work on. We're doing another giveaway for patrons, and it's going to take place on a monthly basis. So as we get further and further along in that giveaway, we're getting closer and closer to the game, and it's a really silly thing. I'm going to be playing Amiibo Festival, and they're going to be voting on who they think will win, who is the happiest villager of them all. So I'm excited for that. It starts, I guess, this month, and so those videos, the first one will be live streamed, so everybody will be able to see, but it's just going to be a happy time with Amiibo Festival.
Nice.
I found a way to make the game fun. All right, so Rolu says, now that we've had an actual look at the game and got a solid release date, I can't say that I'm that hyped. I'm more or less just anticipating our next batch of news instead of the game's release. It makes waiting so much easier. This is a good point too. Like maybe it does make you feel like, oh man, we gotta wait a while for this. There's gotta be news in the meantime.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's a fair thing to say, where you're just hyped to hear about the game again,
Yes, and going back to, the typical pattern that it's only probably like one big game per spring as far as Nintendo goes, they could really spend the time leading up with a bunch of different type of small news, maybe not every month, but maybe a little something every week for a while at least, hopefully starting in February. They could really use the time to just expand on it and give us little tidbits here and there.
Yeah, I'm really waiting for that moment where we reach that point where Nintendo starts tweeting about the game every day.
Yes.
Well, not every day, but like they start tweeting something about it. Especially the Isabelle account, like the official Animal Crossing Twitter account. That has been way too much Pocket Camp and not enough New Horizons. Even after the reveal, like there's still so much Pocket Camp, and I'm like, come on, Nintendo, don't let this account just be Pocket Camp. I mean, I'm back on that game again and I'm playing, but I don't want to just see that. I want to see New Horizons stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just waiting for that. I really can't wait to see them talk about it,
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. So Grizzly Nina says, I think my hype has diminished not because of the delay, but because the information given raises more questions than it answers. I'm ready for more info already. I need to know how to plan out my new island and my islander. That's true. That's a very good point, actually, because we had a lot of questions, and of course we still do. We keep analyzing the trailer and figuring things out, and wondering is it this or is it that, and waiting for more interviews, hopefully. So for sure, Nintendo has a lot of explaining to do in these 9 months.
Yeah, especially like the first topic we spent so long on about just like one island per Switch. Is this a bad translation, Nintendo? Are we mistaken in believing this? Are you going to give us 8 islands per Switch, or is this the truth? So yeah, we need more information because apparently it just can't be clear enough for us. All right, so the next answer is from XMDB, and they said, nope, it gives me time to finish my encyclopedias in New Leaf and get more badges, as my ultimate goal was to finish my badge collection. Just because I have to wait longer doesn't mean that the hype dies down a bit. It's not a major change, and I can wait a couple more months than expected for this awesome new game. So they kind of fall along those same lines as me, where I expected the game to be at the end of the year, and March is not that far from the end of 2019,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably that month where you're finally remembering to write 2020 instead of 2019.
Yes.
When you're writing down the date, it takes like a good solid 2 to 3 months to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a good point by XMDB about there's just still a lot of people playing New Leaf. Maybe you and I we pretty much were done a bunch of years ago, but that doesn't mean that everyone is, and everyone that is still enjoying it. Yeah, now you have more time, like they said, to finish whatever project we're working on that one, and then you have a brand new Animal Crossing experience on the way. The good thing is that we know the date.
Yeah, that's very true, and I also still have some projects to finish up on New Leaf, which I forget about because I'm distracted by the Switch all the time, but yeah, I think it's a nice game to revisit.
Yeah, for sure. So the next answer is by Elizabeth WP, and they say, I'm sure my hype will come and go in waves whenever they release more information about it. I'm trying not to get too obsessed because there's nothing I can do to speed up time.
Yeah, it's true. We can't really... Oh, can we? No. This always gets me down a rabbit hole every time the time travel thing comes up. I love it. But yeah, for the most part, we can't really speed up time. So we just gotta wait.
Yeah, I guess if anything, we could sleep more. That's
true.
That is, yeah.
You know what? That is time traveling. Sleeping, but... I'm not a big fan of it. I get my 8 hours, Sergio, but, a lot of people do really like sleep.
Yeah.
And so they'll get to the game a lot faster than we do.
Yeah.
All right, so Denise says, to be honest, it makes my hype even bigger. I cannot wait to play this game, and the longer the wait, the more I desire this fantastic game. It also leaves more room for cool announcements to generate even more hype. And yeah, I mean, that's what I want to get to. I want to get to the point where Nintendo is talking about this game more than just what they've done so far, which, I do feel like we got a lot at E3, which I'm happy about. The trailer, I still watch every day. And the treehouse, I'm going to keep watching that because I'm doing another analysis on that one.
Yeah, nice.
It might be a little bit different than the trailer because, the trailer is only a minute and a half of footage to go through.
Yeah.
The treehouse is a solid 30 minutes. So I've got to approach this correctly.
Yes,
so it gets done at a reasonable time. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there could be a brand new, either part of a direct or an Animal Crossing focused direct. So for sure, having so much time in between the announcement and the release, yeah, for sure, there's more time for news and hopefully big news.
Yeah, for sure.
And our last answer for this week is by Butt Elf, and they say, it delayed my hype a tiny bit. I like having an exact date so I can have the countdown going on my laptop every day. I also know I have quite a few games to work through, and I still have access to Pocket Camp and New Leaf until it is out. To be honest, as the months come, I'm going to build up my hype, especially by watching your videos and chatting on the Discord. I hope we get news and updates along the way.
Yeah, so this one, I like that that she focused in on just like not having as much hype right now, but that build up is a fun time too.
Oh yeah, and it's coming back, and for sure, Chewy's videos and the Discord for sure. Our entire Haken community, we're there now. There's hype there, and there's gonna build up even more again. As the closer we get to March 2020.
Yeah, and I'll say I think New Leaf, it was not only frustrating waiting for that game, it also felt like they just didn't have the right build up. And that said, it was a very different Nintendo marketing wise back then, and now I feel like we're going to get a proper build up to this game where, if you follow Nintendo on Twitter, which is totally worth it. If you do not have Twitter, I recommend making one solely so you could follow Nintendo.
Oh yeah.
Because they will start posting about this stuff, and you'll get to see things pretty regularly about games that are exciting. I think I've just started seeing more regular news about Fire Emblem, which, I've been excited about because I'm a fan of that series, but now I'm getting more and more actively hyped with it getting closer and them releasing new info on the game. So yeah, and I feel like it's less damaging with Animal Crossing. I think they've got a good balance of things that aren't spoilers and more of things that are oh yeah, and this. And you're oh cool, I didn't know.
Yeah.
So Animal Crossing is it's not really a game I feel you can spoil. You can see it right in front of your face, but until you play it,
yes,
you don't understand the experience.
Yeah. You can see a lot, and it doesn't really matter because it's gonna be the way you approach it, the way your town is, the villagers you have. Everything is so different. Those seem like little changes, but no, they make it a completely different experience.
Yeah, and I say this from watching so much New Leaf before it came out in the States, and I was just ready for that game, even more ready with all the footage I watched. So I don't think Animal Crossing is going to get spoiled for you. No. But if you're still avoiding that, that's no problem either. That's completely fine. If you don't need to see anymore, you're sold. That's a good place to be too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's it. Do you have anything else to say, Sergio?
No, I think that's it exactly. And we'll be here. We'll be doing this podcast every week until March 2020, and much beyond that too, for sure.
Definitely beyond, because we got a whole year of exciting things to find out once that game is out. So it's gonna be good. It's gonna be so good.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you want to be part of the conversation on all things Animal Crossing, please join our Discord. I have a link in the description of this podcast. It's totally free to join. You don't have to be a patron. And if you do join, you can get Sergio and my friend codes. If you do want to become a patron, though, visit patreon.com/ChewyPlaysNintendo for just $1. You can support our show, get tons of cool things, and you can see our current goals to improve the show and our content, and even join our new contest to win a copy of New Horizons, which it's going to be silly, it's going to be fun, and I'm sure everybody is going to get really competitive when it finally happens. Just as a warning, you have until July 18th to submit your entry for this whole thing. So after that, it's going to be cut off, and there will only be a small group of people who can actually win.
Right.
But outside of that, if you're watching or listening on YouTube, please leave a comment about how you feel about having one island per Switch, or any of the reasons you think Animal Crossing was delayed. And please leave a review of the show wherever you're listening. It helps the show gain some visibility and allows our community to grow. And once again, thank you for listening, and we hope you have a great week.
Goodbye, everybody.